That beer in your fridge right now, there's a very good chance it has more in common with a soft drink factory than a brewery. Beer is supposed to be one of the simplest things humans make. Water, grain, hops, yeast, 4 ingredients. That's it. That's all it ever needed to be. But here's the thing. The Australian beer industry doesn't want you thinking about while you're cracking a cold one. Most of the beer sold in this country isn't really brewed. It's manufactured, and the difference between those two words is the entire story of this video. Today, we're going through 7 levels of Australian beer, from the factory floor adjunct lagers dominating every Coles and Woolies fridge, right up to the small independent tap rooms actually keeping the craft alive. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what's in your glass, who's pocketing your money, and where the genuine quality actually lives in this country. Before we get into it, if you're new here, this channel is dedicated to pulling back the curtain on what's really going on inside Australian supermarket products. The stuff companies don't put on labels. If that's your kind of content, hit subscribe and the bell so you don't miss what's coming. Now, let's crack into it. Here's what most people get wrong about the Australian beer market. They think it's competitive, they see 50 different brands on the shelf and assume there's genuine diversity behind them. There isn't. 2 Japanese corporations, Asahi and Kirin, between them control roughly 83% of every beer sold in Australia. Asahi bought Carlton and United Breweries in 2020 for around 16 billion Australian dollars. Kirin has owned Lion since 2009. Together, their brands include VB, Carlton Draught, Great Northern, Crown Lager, 4X, Two Haze, Hahn, James Squire, Little Creatures, Stone and Wood, Furphy, Iron Jack, and Peroni. The only major Australian-owned brewery with meaningful supermarket shelf presence is Cooper's in Adelaide, holding about 5% of the market. What looks like a vibrant beer culture is, at its foundation, a duopoly dressed in different labels, and understanding that duopoly is what lets you read every tier on this list clearly. Let's go. Level 1. The factory floor lager VB, Carlton Draught, 4X, Two Haze New. This is where the market lives. The slab from the servo staple, the beer that doesn't require a decision. It's just what's there. The typical buyer at this level isn't choosing a beer. They're buying a ritual, the cold can, the knockoff reward, the footy accompaniment, and for that use case, these beers do exactly what they're designed to do. Here's what the marketing won't tell you though. Every single one of these is an adjunct lager. Adjunct means a portion of the malted barley, the ingredient that actually makes beer taste like beer, has been replaced with something cheaper. In VB's case, that's cane sugar. Carlton Draught is widely reported to use pre-isomerized hop extract rather than actual hop flowers, meaning there may not be a single real hop in the product, just a chemical extract providing bitterness. 4X Gold, Two Haze New, same playbook. Now, none of this appears on the label, and that's entirely legal under FSANZ, Australia's food standards regulator. Alcoholic beverages are exempt from listing ingredients. No ingredients panel required. Nothing. The brand doesn't have to tell you if they've used corn, rice, sugar, or synthetic hop extracts. They also don't have to disclose processing aids like isinglass. That's dried fish swim bladder protein used to clarify the beer. Or PVPP, which is an industrial plastic polymer used to prevent haze. Both are filtered out before the beer reaches you, so they qualify as processing aids, not ingredients. Zero disclosure required. Germany solved this in 1516 with the Reinheitsgebot, a law permitting only water, malted barley, hops, and yeast. Australia has never had anything remotely like it. The mistake people make at this level is assuming cheap equals honest. The reality is the opposite. The more industrial the brewery, the more likely undisclosed processes are happening in the background. Pricing, around $45 to $55 a slab at Coles or Woolies, about $16 to $18 per 6-pack. Best value at this level. If you're staying here, Cooper's Mild Ale sits at a comparable price point, is brewed by an Australian-owned company, and uses no adjuncts. It's not what your mates will expect when they open the esky, but at least you know what's in it. Level 2. The billion-dollar fresh brand, Great Northern. Great Northern deserves its own level because it represents something distinct. The engineered lifestyle brand built specifically to exploit a gap between cheap lager and premium. Great Northern Super Crisp, 3.5% ABV, and Original, 4.2%, took Cub to what Drinks Digest reported as over $1 billion in annual sales for a single brand, and reportedly the first alcoholic drink brand in Australia to hit that mark. The marketing is relentless. Sunshine, rivers, tropical warmth, an ethos of earned refreshment. It works. Here's the uncomfortable truth about Great Northern. It's brewed at the Yatala Brewery in Queensland, the largest brewing facility in Australia. It is, by every technical measure, the same category of product as the beers in Level 1. Adjunct lager. Mass-produced, Japanese-owned. The difference isn't the beer, it's the brand story. The mistake people make here is confusing lifestyle identity with product quality. Great Northern has made itself synonymous with Queensland outdoors culture so effectively that drinking it feels like a personality expression. That's genuinely impressive marketing. It has nothing to do with what's in the can. Pricing, roughly $17 to $20 per six-pack. Level 3, the craft-washed corporate James Squire. Furphy. Now, we're getting into genuinely deceptive territory. Not just industrial beer with lifestyle branding, but industrial beer actively dressed up as craft. James Squire tells you the story of Australia's first commercial brewer, a first fleet convict who cultivated hops in Ryde and sold beer from his own tavern. It's a good story, except the beer has nothing to do with it. James Squire is a brand created by Lion in the late 1990s, launched from what was rebranded the Malt Shovel Brewery, a Lion operation. There is no thread of continuity between an 18th century farmer and what's in that tap. The heritage is entirely manufactured. What you're buying is a Lion adjunct lager sold in a bottle with a story printed on it. Furphy, and this surprises most people, is also Lion. Not Cub, Lion. Brewed at the Little Creatures Geelong facility, launched as a Geelong local in 2014 and pushed national after enormous demand. It grew by over 300% year on year at its peak. The Geelong local positioning is real in origin, but the brand is fully owned by Kirin through Lion. Your Furphy is a Japanese corporation's version of a regional Australian ale. The ACCC fined CUB $20,400 in 2014 for marketing a Byron Bay Pale Lager with small brewery imagery when it was contract brewed over 600 kilometres away at an industrial facility. The fine was a rounding error. The practice has continued industry-wide. A beer cartel survey found 64% of Australian consumers want to know who owns their beer. These brands depend on people not knowing. Pricing, around $15 to $17 per six-pack. Before we get to the levels where it gets genuinely interesting, which brand at level 1, 2, or 3 are you most surprised by? Drop it in the comments. I want to know what's actually sitting in your fridge right now. Level 4, the premium import. That isn't Peroni. Stella Artois, Asahi Super Dry. Here's where you need to be honest with yourself. You've probably ordered one of these at a bar because it felt like a slightly better choice, a bit more sophisticated, a European label, a Japanese label, something that implied someone, somewhere, was putting more care into it. This is the tier where the perception gap between marketing and reality is at its absolute widest. Peroni Nastro Azzurro, that sleek Italian lager, is brewed in Australia by Kubi for Asahi, which acquired the Peroni brand globally in 2016. The locally produced version uses maize as an adjunct, making it an adjunct lager by another name, just with a more expensive label. Choice ran a blind taste test and found the majority of their expert panel preferred the genuine Italian import over the locally produced version. You're generally not getting the Italian import. You're paying a 30% premium for an adjunct lager from the same corporate stable as Carlton Draught. Asahi Super Dry, positioned as Japan's premium lager, is now brewed domestically by CUB at Yatala in Queensland. Same facility producing Great Northern. A Bond University academic lodged a formal ACCC complaint about the marketing given domestic production. The ACCC took no action. Consumer forums are full of Australians who've tasted both and describe the local version as a noticeably different beer. Stella Artois is brewed domestically under license, with the Anno 1366 Belgian heritage doing heavy lifting that the current production arrangement doesn't justify. The fundamental problem with this entire tier is that these beers are priced at a genuine premium, around $18 to $24 per six-pack, based on provenance they no longer have, while genuine independent Australian craft beers at the same price point are actually delivering on what this tier promises, but doesn't provide. Best Buy signal. If you want a genuine import lager at a premium price, look for products that specifically state product of Germany or product of Czech Republic in smaller craft bottle shop ranges. Pils styles from Bohemia in particular are underappreciated and genuinely different. Level 5. The acquired craft stone and wood. Little creatures. Balter. Pirate life. This is the level that broke the hearts of a generation of Australian beer drinkers. And it's the most important level to understand if you actually care about where craft beer is headed. Stone and Wood in Byron Bay is the defining story. 3 former Kubi brewers left big beer specifically to do something different. They built Pacific Ale on Australian Galaxy hops, tropical, passion fruit, unforgettable, and it topped the Gab's Hottest 100 Craft Beer poll for 9 consecutive years. 9. They even bought back an early Lion stake in 2012 to reclaim full independence. Then, in 2021, they sold 100% to Lion for an estimated $500 million plus. The IBA chairman said the industry was obviously saddened. The beer is still good, but the independence is gone. Profits flow to Kirin. Little Creatures, Fremantle, founded 2000, was acquired by Lion in 2012 for around $350 million. Its pale ale genuinely helped create Australian craft beer culture. Balter Brewing on the Gold Coast, co-founded by pro surfer Mick Fanning, was acquired by Cube in late 2019. Pirate Life and Four Pines were both snapped up by Cub's ZX Ventures arm in 2017, passing to Asahi in 2020. Green Beacon in Brisbane was acquired by Asahi in 2019, and its production brewery was closed in 2023, with brewing shifted interstate to Pirate Life's Adelaide facility. The beers at this level are generally excellent. The brewing heritage is real. The recipes haven't been gutted, but every dollar you spend goes to the same Japanese corporations as a slab of VB. That's the information gap this tier depends on. Pricing: $18 to $22 per 6-pack. Level 6. The thriving independent capital brewing. BentSpoke, Stomping Ground, Brick Lane. Now we're in genuinely different territory. These are Australian-owned breweries, most holding the IBA independent seal, operating at commercial scale without corporate ownership. The IBA independent seal is your clearest shortcut as a consumer. To qualify, a brewery must be less than 20% owned by any large brewer and produce under 40 million litres annually. When you see it on a can or tap badge, you know where your money is actually going. Capital Brewing in Canberra holds B Corp certification, has achieved carbon neutral status, and is one of Australia's most awarded independent breweries. Their XPA is arguably the best value independent craft beer in supermarket distribution nationally. BentSpoke Brewing, also in Canberra, took the Gab's Hottest 100 in 2020 and 2021 with the Crankshaft IPA, a West Coast-style beer that consistently punches above its weight. Stomping Ground in Collingwood survived a failed 2022 acquisition attempt and remains founder-owned, with a brewpub and taproom that are among Melbourne's finest. Brick Lane in Abbotsford holds B Corp certification, has completed a major capacity expansion, and handles contract brewing for dozens of smaller independent brands, acting as a backbone for the broader independent sector. One genuine piece of good news: Feral Brewing in Western Australia, which was owned by Coca-Cola Euro-Pacific Partners, was returned to independent ownership in late 2024 when CCEP exited beer entirely. A consortium of WA independent breweries now owns it. The brewing difference at this level is real. Whole hops, specific named varieties, unfiltered options, seasonal releases, transparency about ingredients that the lower tiers aren't legally required to provide, but that independent brewers offer voluntarily because their reputation depends on it. Pricing: around $20 to $24 per 4-pack or $17 to $22 per 6-pack at Dan Murphy's and BWS. Level 7. The true taproom craft batch brewing. One Drop, Wildflower, Range, Molly Rose. The top of the quality ladder isn't just a better beer. It's a fundamentally different relationship with what brewing can be. These are small Australian-owned microbreweries, most with on-site taprooms, producing small batch beer with ingredient transparency that the rest of this industry can't match. The IBA seal is standard. The brewer is often serving you the pint. In Sydney, batch brewing in Marrickville, One Drop Brewing in Botany, Grifter Brewing, and the extraordinary Wildflower Brewing, which produces barrel-aged wild ales fermented with ambient Australian yeast strains, creating beers that are genuinely unique to their geography. In Melbourne, Molly Rose Brewing in Collingwood, Hop Nation in Footscray. In Brisbane, Range Brewing in Newstead, and Either Brewing, both producing some of the most technically impressive hop-forward beers in the country. These aren't failed attempts at making mainstream lager. They are specifically designed to be something mainstream lager cannot be: characterful, transparent, and worth tasting slowly. Here's the law of diminishing returns you need to understand at this level. A taproom pint costs around $10 to $12, of which roughly $5 is Australian beer excise, the third highest beer tax rate in the world, according to the Independent Brewers Association. Australia currently taxes packaged beer at approximately $62 per litre of alcohol. That tax indexes to CPI and rises automatically every February and August. Since 2020, it has risen by about 20%. The IBA reported in early 2025 that at least 47 independent breweries entered administration or closed from January 2023 onwards. Deeds Brewing, which won Champion Medium Brewery at the 2023 Australian International Beer Awards, closed permanently in May 2024. Every pint bought at a small brewery taproom is a direct vote against that trend. The $10 you spend at a bar on a corporate pseudo-import goes to Tokyo. The $12 you spend on a pint at a taproom keeps a small Australian business alive, pays an Australian wage, and supports an Australian farmer growing Australian hops. Here's where the 7 levels land. Levels 1 and 2 are functional products serving a functional purpose. There is no shame in the slab at a backyard barbie, but you should know what it is and who's profiting. Level 3 is the tier to avoid with the most conviction. These brands are actively trading on a craft identity they don't possess. Level 4 is spending a premium for provenance that no longer exists. Level 5 produces genuinely excellent beer, but under foreign corporate ownership. Levels 6 and 7 are where your money does something meaningful. The sweet spot for everyday drinking that's also independent. Level 6, Capital XPA and BentSpoke crankshaft are widely available at Dan Murphy's and BWS nationally. Price competitive with the premium imports, and the entire dollar stays in Australia. For something worth drinking slowly and talking about, go straight to a Level 7 taproom. The best beer isn't the one with the best marketing. It's the one where someone you'll never meet cared enough to put their name on it. Which level were you drinking at before this video? And which one are you switching to? Tell me in the comments. I want to see how many of you are ditching the faux imports for something real. If this video made you rethink what's actually in your glass, hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel keep putting out the kind of content the big companies would rather you never watched. And if you want to go deeper on what Australian supermarket products are actually made of, there's a whole library of exposés right here on the channel. Grab a proper indie beer, get comfortable, and I'll see you in the next one.